بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, tonight we discuss the challenges for family in our modern time and in Islamic terminology in Akhir zaman, which seems not to be far from our time. In the series about globe before and after the advent of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, I have mentioned two ways of understanding Akhir zaman. One is the last part of history of mankind, when Allah sends his last message and final prophet. So in this sense, our prophet is prophet of Akhir zaman, because there would be no other message, no other prophet after him, and he would be the one that is helping us in providing guidance for what we need to do till end of this world. Another way of understanding Akhir Zaman is to go further and mention the very last part of history of mankind, which is close to the time of Zuhur and after Zuhur. I explained over there that when you have, for example, suppose a line of 1,000 kilometers, the last 10 kilometers is end of this line, the last 1 kilometer is also end of it, and the last 1 meter is also end of this line. So Zaman is a continuous line, and depending on your point of reference, any part which ends with end of this line can be considered as Akhir Zaman if it falls in the second half and it's close to the end. So if it is, for example, 1,000 kilometer, we cannot say the last 900 kilometer is Akhir Zaman, or if it is, for example, last 800 or last 500, even half of it. It should be less than half. Maybe something like, 1/3, 1/4. Therefore, in my humble understanding, Allah, of course, knows, and we don't know. Even to say Allah knows the best is not enough. To say Allah knows. In my humble understanding, the period after Islam till end of this world would not become longer than the period before. Otherwise, it would not make sense to say this is Akhir Zaman. This is my humble understanding. In any way, we leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one should fix any time. I also don't fix any time. I just say it seems that it should not be longer than the before or equal to the before. It should be a smaller portion of the whole history. So, in Akhir Zaman, in its narrower sense, means before and after Zuhur, family life has challenges. And it seems our modern time, although still there are things that have not happened, but we see already that it's leading to that point. It seems it's the same direction, unfortunately, unless we do something to either save whole humanity or at least save ourselves and those who are interested. So, what we find today is very much in resonance with what we find about problems in Akhir Zaman. I mentioned first some of the challenges that we see today, and then, inshallah, discuss it in the light of our hadith about Akhir Zaman, in particular, those things that relate to family life. And you would see how much they resonate. And then you would see that why it's very important for us to discuss this topic of family life and how to have a kind of preparation and tarbiyah that would be particularly suitable for the time of ghaibah, and how Imam Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif should be a very important point of reference for us in our tarbiyah. I just listed here for myself so that I can share with you some of the problems that we see today. For example, one big problem that we see today, and I think for me this is a very big problem, is that in modern societies, unfortunately, governments and institutional governments may try to marginalize the role of family and, in particular, parents. I'm not saying this is happening in every country, but this is the trend. We see it already in some countries. I hope modern states, which have lots of also, good voices and good people and family-oriented people, would avoid that and prevent that, and if they have gone to the wrong direction, to correct that. But what we see already is that in some systems, they look at family and parents in particular as people who just bring children to this world. And when they are very vulnerable and somehow, you know, troublesome for system to take care of, every born baby, they say, okay, family can, do its part. But when they start going to school, then they may think, okay, as long as parents do what we want, that's fine. Otherwise, we replace them. We have, social systems, social security. We have, I don't know, care providers. And if we see that families are not taking, their responsibility well, we take the child and leave it to someone, either to give it to another family that meet our expectations, or we put them in some, you know, places for training and some boarding places, etc. It is true that there might be exceptional cases when, for example, parents are mentally ill, or I don't know, are abusive, the child is in real danger, parents fail to provide, enough care. there can be exceptional cases that then we cannot leave everything to parents. But what's the solution? Even here, I think the best solution is the extended family to take care of these cases, and government supports them. Or the community takes care of these children, and government supports them. Maybe in some exceptional cases, government needs to temporarily take care of these children, and as soon as the problem is solved, bring them back. But for just some differences of opinions, for different ways of prioritizing values, governments, for example, feels that these parents are too religious, these parents are too traditional, these parents are too concerned about their children. They should let their children, even when they are not in the age of legal responsibility, they should be free to meet, to interact, to spend night, wherever they want. And then because the parents are not happy, then they say, okay, we take the child from you. Alhamdulillah, this is not very common still, but we don't need to wait for the problem to become common. We are already seeing this happening in some societies, and we need to work together with other communities, with Christians, with Jews, with Hindus, with Buddhists, and there are many also even maybe secular people who have interest in family life. We need to work together. So one problem which is very important is marginalizing parents and looking at family just in an instrumentalist way. Not that the people who are really responsible for tarbiyah and upbringing the children, no, they are doing some services for the society, and we as government decide, how much we need them and how they should work. It's like, as if they are employed. This is a very important problem. Another problem is that even definition of family is being distorted. What is family? Just two people living together is not family. Family has a very clear definition. For thousands of years, family was always understood as a man, as a woman, as a mother, as a father, and perhaps they have children. Sometimes they may not have children, but still they have a family. We cannot think that just two people living together, it's making it a family. Then, formation of family. This is also an issue. People delay or never come into family life. Breaking down of families easily, it is also another problem. And also, individualism is a big threat because family means to prioritize the other parties, your spouse, your children. And if you don't prioritize, at least think about common good, you are part of it. Either you find your happiness in happiness of your spouse and children first, and you really see this brings joy to you, or at least say, okay, we think together, like a group who travel, for example, they should think about the common good, not they think about their own, selfish interest only. But this culture of individualism sometimes even doesn't let people to reach this level of discerning what is common good, etc., or to prioritize others. People think about themselves. You see this problem mostly when it comes to their spouse and in-laws, but even sometimes with respect to their parents. They try to plan everything for themselves, independent from parents sometimes. Even they don't feel connected to parents, although this is less than feeling not connected with the spouse, but this is also happening because individualism has no limit. It can lead even to the separation from parents, from children, even from their nation, from their country. They just think about themselves. Whatever suits them, they may do, no matter what's going to happen to the rest. So this is another challenge that we have. And also, another big challenge that we have today is undermining the work which is done at home, especially if women spend time at home to make family a kind of warm, safe, comfortable, enjoyable environment. It is sometimes underestimated. And imagine if this continues for generations, then we would have women who would not want to do anything at home. They don't want to spend any time on children, on family. So, I should study, I should work, I should make money. Yes, we can, order food from outside or, hire a cook or servant at home. Why I should spend my time on upbringing children? When they see people look down on those people that their achievement has been upbringing children and looking after family, they say, what are your qualifications? What are your achievements? How much you get? People look sometimes down. This is very destructive. This is very bad. Women can work, can study, and if that is something that gives them some progress, some development in their personality, makes them better people, makes them better members of the society, makes them better servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, they should study. Of course, if needed, they should work, but not by undermining family life and family responsibilities. For us, mothers should remain heroes or heroines. They are really heroines. What they do in addition to this is secondary. If a mother does her role as a mother well, and in addition to that can contribute to community, society, humanity, that's great. And we need the women contribution to society. We feel a society in which women are present in public space can be safer and be more spiritual if the way Islam looks at things, our divine religions look at things, that is followed. We want presence of women, not only because we need their talents, not because we only need their skills, but presence of women in every public place. If it is done with dignity and haya, make that place more spiritual, safer, better, more organized. But not by sacrifice. So these are some of the challenges that we see today. Let us now refer to what we find in our hadith about challenges in Akhir zaman life. Husband, wife, and women, mothers, children, etc. And then it will put us in a good, inshallah, framework to enter our main discussion, which is about what should we do now. One of the problems that we find in our hadith is that in Akhir Zaman we will witness. Inshallah, this is not going to happen to our families or our communities, but it's very likely that this will be happening in general and in very large scale. And if we are not careful, it can happen to us as well. And maybe it already affected us. One of the things we find is that in Akhir Zaman there would be not adequate love, respect, compassion in families. For example, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, رَأَيْتَ الْعُقُوقَ قَدْ ظَهَرَ. In Akhir Zaman, you will find that uquq is more dominant. You know the concept of uququl walidain, and then the person is aqul walidain. When children are displeasing parents and parents are very upset about them and basically they want to, you know, disassociate themselves from the children. They don't want to see them anymore because they just bring pain to them. This is going to increase. This is an alarm. Or in another hadith, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, وَاسْتُخِفَّ بِالْوَالِدَيْنِ. Parents will be undermined, underestimated. Respect and honor for parents will go to decline. This is very dangerous. This will, discourage people even from having children. If people see that, others, are mistreated by their children despite everything they did for their children, then they say, why we should have children or we should have less children. Little by little, people stop having children. They say, okay, it's better to have a pet. At least this pet is not going to make me suffer. He's not going to fight me. So, istighfaf is to consider as a light as, not significant of parents by children is one of the things that happens in Akhir Zaman. In another hadith, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, رَأَيْتَ إِبْنَ الرَّجُولِ يَفْتَرِي عَلَى أَبِيهِ وَيَدْعُو عَلَى وَالِدَيْهِ وَيَفْرَحُ بِمَوْتِهِمَا. نَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ. May Allah save us. You see, son of someone fabricate lies against his father. He attributes lies about his father, either to gain something financially or, because he is not happy with his father, he tries to ruin his father. وَيَدْعُ ala waliday. Ala dua. Ala in Arabic means to pray against. Dua le means for, praying for someone. But ala means praying against, like cursing. You see a child prays against his or her parents. وَيَفْرَحُ بِمَوْتِهِمَا. If parents die, the child becomes happy. Says, now I am free. Now I can have all the inheritance. My parents, were just causing me, limitation, restrictions. I had to, do something for them. Now I'm happy that I don't have any burden. Na'udhu billah, they consider having parents as burden, etc. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِذَا كَثُرَ الطَّلَاقُ. That time is one of the things that happen is that divorce increases. It's amazing how these things were foretold. In another hadith, which is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, تُذِلُّكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. Fitna is a very important term, inshallah, sometime we should discuss. It's a condition when truth is not very clear. Everything is clouded. And only people who have insight can see through. Otherwise, they will be deceived. They will make mistaken decisions. They will not even sometimes understand who is friend, who is enemy, what's the right direction. So there would be such calamities in understanding, in taking a stance, like قطع الليل المظلم, like parts of very dark night. In a very dark night, if there is no light, even light of the stars, you cannot understand the direction. لا يبقى بيت من بيوت المسلمين بين المشرق والمغرب إلا إذا دخلته. لا يبقى بيت من بيوت المسلمين بين المشرق والمغرب إلا دخلته. No house of houses of Muslims, no home will be there from east to the west unless this fitna enters. No one is going to be safe. You cannot say, okay, I go to this part of the world and no problem is going to happen. Maybe it takes time to reach there, but sooner or later, all are going to be affected. Every bait, every house, this fitna enters. Now we already see that how through some, social media, in every house, even without parents knowing, fitna is entering. But this might not be just this, it might be also a common culture that, some paradigms which are not Islamic, which are not human even, can spread and no household will be safe. I repeat it again. لا يبقى بيت من بيوت المسلمين بين المشرق والمغرب إلا دخلته. No house of Muslim houses between east and west would remain unless this fitna enters that house. So this is one problem. Another problem is that we find that pleasure, and normally when we say pleasure, we don't mean long-term, spiritual, intellectual pleasure. It's more instant physical pleasure, satisfaction. a kind of hedonistic culture will become dominant in Akhir Zaman. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, يَكُونُ هَمُّ النَّاسِ بُطُونَهُمْ وَفُرُوجَهُمْ فَلَا يُبَالُونَ بِمَا أَكَلُوا وَلَا بِمَا نَكَحُوا. People's concern become their stomach and sexual desire. It doesn't mean everyone, but it becomes something which is not uncommon, something which will be common, which will be the, you know, kind of, a spreading problem, a kind of epidemic problem, unless you protect yourself. But they eat, which is, of course, not just food, not just drink. Basically, these are physical pleasures. Part of it comes through eating and drinking. Part of it is, through sexual, you know, satisfaction. Basically, a kind of pleasure that even animals get. If a human being operates at the level of animals, is a problem. If a human being, works hard just to gain animal pleasures, is a problem. Yes, if you eat, drink, have, moral, religious ways of meeting your sexual, needs, etc. But for a greater cause, that's okay, that's good. But if everything is just for sex or for food or drinking, for physical comfort, that's the problem. You are not created for this. We have discussed this, about you know, what makes something human in Hawza Akhlaq lectures in self-knowledge and others. So they don't care about what they eat. What gives them pleasure, that's enough. How this food is prepared, how is it cooked. No, it's just delicious. And also, they don't care about where they get sexual pleasure. Again, I repeat, this is not going to happen to 100% of people. But these are the things which are going to be very, common practices. And already we see signs of that in some places. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam said, Niswatun kashifatun ariyatun mutabarrajat. There would be women who are not properly dressed. They are like naked. They expose themselves. When this becomes the culture, then you can imagine what's going to happen to dignity of women, how women are going to be misused, are going to be mistreated, how some bad men are going to take advantage of this, and how family life is going to be damaged when there are women who are, available outside family without any commitment. People can enjoy having relation with them. Then what's going to happen? In another hadith, Amir al-Mu'minin said there would be people, women, داخلات في الفتن مائلات إلى الشهوات مسرعات إلى اللذات. Because this culture very much, this culture of, hedonism, modern hedonism, very much needs to misuse women for their plan. Although Allah has created women very strong and very dignified and very much resistant, but they little by little, confuse some women, and they think in this way they are free. They think they are dignified. They act according to the norms of this culture and then make themselves available. So they become part of the system of corruption. And the first losers and the first victims are women, and then men, and then children, and then families, and the whole society. So there would be women who are dakhilatun fil fitan. They will enter into this fitan. They don't keep themselves separate. They will be inclined towards shahawat, lower desires. Musra'atun ila Allah. They will quickly go to what gives them pleasure. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam also said, you find رَأَيْتَ النِّسَاءَ يَتَزَوَّجْنَ النِّسَاءَ. You find some women marry women. Not maybe in the course of history, this was not very common. Maybe very rarely, sometimes this had happened. I don't have, any kind of survey in front of me or available to see, but I don't think this was common. Even um, man having a relation with man was not common, but it existed maybe in some cases, like people love Lot. But women having a relation, I don't think that was even to that extent. But it happens in Akhir Zaman, and we already see signs of that. Another problem is that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, وَمَعِيشَةُ الْمَرْأَةِ مِنْ فَرْجِهَا. Or Imam Ali alayhi salam says, مُسْتَحِلَّاتٌ وَمُحَرَّمَاتٌ فِي جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدًا. Unfortunately, some women, they would make their living from haram relation. By giving away their effort and making themselves available for some men, they get money. In some places, they call them sex workers. This is not work. This is not a dignified way of living. Why society puts, or some system, government put women in this condition? That they have to satisfy people and get money. So these are the problems that are foretold in our hadith. So this was the second issue. So the first issue was decline in love and compassion in family. The second was going after instant satisfaction and pleasure in a hedonistic way. The third is ghira, which is a kind of protective feeling towards your family, your mother, your sister, your wife, your daughter, goes into decline. People see their daughters, their sisters, even their wives have relations with non-mahram. Either they don't bother, or even if they bother, they don't say anything. It is true that in the end of the day, everyone is responsible for his or her action. But we also have mutual responsibility, especially inside family. And it is also true that Islam doesn't allow anyone to use illegitimate ways. Like, for example, in some cultures which is not Islamic, for example, they find that the daughter has a relation with someone, they kill the daughter. It's not Islamic, killing for honor or whatever. It's not Islamic. But also to feel indifferent or to do nothing and to say nothing, this is also not acceptable. You have to find what is moral, what is spiritual, what is religious, what is wise, which summarizes everything. What is wise? If for some reason a girl is in relation with a non-mahram, okay, this is not right. Should not be in relation with non-mahram. But to kill this daughter is much worse. It's a much greater crime. So no one should, allow themselves to do something like this. And this is not common in Muslim world. Well, the very rare cases happen, and some people, exaggerate about it. Very rare. And as I said, it's more some cultures that they have this. But this doesn't mean that we should be silent or even, clap for them that, okay, you decided, to have relation with this boy today, maybe next week with another one, next month with another person. That's, your decision. I am happy. I support you. No. That girl doesn't have experience. That girl hasn't seen ups and downs of life. Can get emotional. You as father, as mother, as brother, as sister, you have responsibility. But wisdom is important. Islamic boundaries have to be observed. You cannot fix a problem with a bigger problem. In any case, one of the problems in Akhir al-Zaman is this. Amir al-Mu'minin says, وَيَرَى الرَّجُلُ مِنْ زَوْجَتِهِ الْقَبِيحِ فَلَا يَنْهَاهَا وَلَا يَرُدُّهَا عَنْهُ. A man finds his wife is doing something ugly, which means as, haram relation and, gets money for that. Doesn't stop. وَيَأْخُذُ مَا تَأْتِي مِنْ كَدِّ فَرْجِهَا. And even this money which comes from haram, this man uses. This woman buys something, brings home, he also eats. Maybe this has not happened that much, although I have heard, things like this. But in future, if we are not careful, this may become more common. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam also said, إذا رأيت الرجل يأكل من كسب امرأته من الفجور. You see that a man is happy that his wife has a relation, and when this man uses the money which comes from this. And even sometimes they themselves make the deal. Another problem that happens is that because the culture is not based on values, on dignity, then certain things become like their idols, like their gods. For example, money becomes very important. And instead of having love, respect, friendship with their wives, they become obedient to their wives. It's not a service to a wife if you become a worshipper for your wife. Whatever she says, even if it is wrong, you do it. Actually, it's not worship for anyone, a service to anyone if you obey them, even if they are wrong. For example, if the wife tells them, don't visit your parents, do something wrong to take away the money of your parents. Maybe your father has given something you as amana, you are his son, he trusted you. Then your wife said, "No, don't give her back." What can he do? And you listen to your wife. This is a sign of Akhir zaman. No one should obey parents by annoying or hurting his wife or her husband. That is also wrong. Everyone has his or her own rights. We need to respect, we need to observe, and you have to find wise ways to keep your parents happy, your spouse happy, your in-laws happy, as much as you can, in the way that Allah is pleased. If they ask you to do something wrong, then of course you don't do something wrong, but try to minimize problems. But we cannot do zulm to our wife because of parents, or do zulm to our parents because of wife or husband. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, يكون الرجل همه بطنه وقبلته زوجته وقبلته زوجته ودينه دراهمه. The concern of a man becomes his stomach, and his qibla, his point of direction, becomes his wife, and his faith becomes his dirham, his money. Dirham, silver coin, is money. Does this person worship? Money. Which direction he has? His wife. And concern is stomach. This is different from Islamic way of life, that you would have halal and tayyib and healthy food. That's good. But just, to do things in order to enjoy your, self in eating delicious food. Or for example, you just, keep your wife, pleased, so that, for example, you just get, what you want from your wife because you don't want to lose her, even if she's wrong, even if she's doing zulm, and then just doing things for the sake of money. In another hadith, Rasulullah said, يُطِيعُ الرَّجُلُ زَوْجَتَهُ وَيَعْصِي وَالِدَيْهِ. In this culture, a man obeys his wife and disobeys his parents. The last hadith for tonight, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, وَرَأَيْتَ الْمَرْأَةَ تَقْهَرُ زَوْجَهَا وَتَعْمَلُ مَا لَا يَشْتَهِي وَتُنْفِقُ عَلَى زَوْجِهَا. You find in Akhir al-Zaman a woman who would treat her husband with force and violence. Women become violent. Women should be manifestation of love and care. But women become violent, they control it. Soft, maybe power, or sometimes even force their husband. وَتَعْمَلُ مَا لَا يَشْتَهِي, and they do what their husband doesn't want. Even if it is right. Sometimes husband doesn't want something right. That's not what we are talking about. But husband has some desires which are legitimate, which are right. About, for example, what should we do as family, etc. This woman ta'mal ma la yashtahi, against the will of her husband. وَتُنْفِقُ عَلَى زَوْجِهَا. تُنْفِقُ عَلى زَوْجِهَا, it is sometimes interpreted as she would spend the money of her husband without the consent of her father, her husband. I have another also interpretation, but I think maybe it's better just to keep this. So these are few challenges of family life in Akhir al-Zaman. Inshallah, there are few more that we discuss. Session has become longer and we don't want to rush. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us very alert is safer. When you are heedless, that's dangerous. So we ask Allah to make us conscious and alert about challenges that we are facing or are soon going to face and help us to prevent as much as possible. And if we are facing them, to be immunized and even help other people, other communities about these problems. May Allah give shifa to all people who are ill. May Allah send rahmah and maghfirah to all mu'mineen and mu'minat who have passed away, especially those who are alive upon us. May Allah bless our parents and foreparents, and those who are alive to give them very dignified and happy and comfortable life, and those who have passed away, may Allah be very kind and generous with them. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.